Sleeping on the Job, written and adapted by the Sudrian Dragon. Once upon a time, there were two blue engines that shared a shed with Edward, Gordon, and Henry. They didn't have names, just numbers. They were 98462 and 87546. Both had proven themselves to be versatile engines, able to pull different trains around the railway. They would constantly bully the other engines, whether it was about Thomas's size, Edward and Emily's age, James and Molly being mixed traffic engines, Gordon constantly getting into trouble, or Henry's steaming issues. Because of this, no one liked them. One day, Gordon was arriving at the end of the line with his express. He had been showing off his new safety valve all day and had completely exhausted himself. Just a little further and I can have a nice rest, he muttered. But as he was getting closer to the station, his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. They suddenly closed and he started to doze off. He was sleeping so much, he didn't notice that he was getting closer to the buffers. "Gordon, stop!" cried his driver. Gordon's eyes shot open and saw the buffers, but it was too late. He hit the buffers with a loud bump. No one was hurt, but Gordon's buffers were damaged. The fat director spoke to Gordon that evening. "All that showing off is the reason why you were feeling sleepy, Gordon," he said. "You'll have to go to the works again. When you come back, you will help Thomas shunt in the yard until you learn not to get so big in the smoke box." "Yes, sir," sighed Gordon. As the fat director left, 98462 and 87546 spoke up. "First stolen on a hill, then bursting your safety valve, and now falling asleep and crashing into buffers," said 98462. "Heh! So much for being an important engine." "See, this is why the fat director wants engines like us," added 87546. "We're his ideal engines. We don't fall asleep on the job. He also doesn't want engines who are constantly making fun of others," retorted Gordon. "He's told you both countless times that he doesn't tolerate bullying on his railway. Neither does he tolerate engines who can't do their jobs properly," retorted 98462. "It's a miracle that you, Thomas, James, Emily, Molly, and especially Edward and Henry are still working on this railway. None of you can do your jobs without something going wrong. Once he sees how useless you lot are, you'll be sent away and he'll keep us around." Gordon was furious, but wisely decided not to say anything. "Those two terrors are absolutely horrid," Gordon ranted to the others the next day. "Gordon, calm down," said Emily. "Well, he's not wrong," put in Thomas. 98462 and 87546 are always putting us down. It's high time to put them in their place, but how? "Wall them up in my tunnel for life," said Henry. "Shunt them off the quayside," suggested James. "Cut them up for scrap," shouted Sarah, a red tender engine. "Everyone," interrupted Edward. "Look, I know they're not the nicest of engines, but we mustn't resort to doing something so cruel. They'll get what's coming to them, I promise." The next evening, the fat director spoke to his engines. "There's going to be a special sleeper train running from Chidmouth to Glasgow and back," he said. "It's a long train, so I need 2 engines to take it." "I'd be more than happy to take it, sir," chimed in 98462. "Me too," added 87546. "Very well," said the fat director. "I want you both to get plenty of rest before tonight. Be at the station around 6 o'clock." He turned and walked away. I'm sorry to say, however, that 98462 and 87546 didn't rest. They boasted all day about how they were chosen to take a special train. The Fat Director trusts us with the train because you are too careless to run it, they would say. The others took no notice. Soon it was 6 o'clock, and 98462 and 87546 were ready for the sleeper train. Their crews got them fired up, ready for the run. Then, their drivers pulled their levers and headed for the station. "Look at me," they puffed, mocking Edward as they did so. 98462 and 87546 arrived at Tidmouth, where Diana, a blue tank engine, shunted the coaches onto the platform. Once the passengers were settled into their compartments, the guard's whistle blew and they set off. They were running well. Signal lights shone green, and the lines were all clear for them. "Make way for the most important engines on the railway," the two engines chuckled as they passed other waiting trains. But the lack of sleep was starting to get to the engines, and soon they were struggling to keep their eyes open. Up ahead, a passenger train was waiting in a loop to let the sleeper train pass. The engine at the front was growing impatient. "When on earth are they getting here?" she grumbled. "I'm going to be late if I'm here any longer." "Be patient, Irene," said the driver. "I'm sure they will be here any minute." Unfortunately, the signalman had forgotten about the passenger train and left the points set for the loop. 98462 and 87546 were now becoming even more tired, and they were starting to feel sleepy. "Too sleepy," groaned 87546. "Oh, pull yourself together, 8," yawned 98462. "We have a stop at Barrow. We can rest there and..." The two engines were suddenly awoken as they felt themselves crash into the passenger train. The mess was awful. 20 passengers were injured and 8 were killed. The next morning, the emergency services were called to help the passengers, and James brought Judy and Jerome to clear the wreckage. The Fat Director had arrived in the mogul's cab and was furious. "I am utterly beyond words," he said. "Once you two are taken to the shed, I will speak to you there." 98462 and 87546 didn't say anything as James took them away. They felt very ashamed. Once 98462 and 87546 were brought home, the Fat Director spoke to them severely. I won't repeat what he said, as it wasn't very polite, but he had planned for the two engines to not be repaired at his works and instead sent back to their railways. The engines were glad that 98462 and 87546 would be gone, but they also felt bad for the passengers. "It's a relief that they won't be here anymore," said Henry, "but it took the deaths of several passengers to do that." "I hope those two have learned their lesson from this," agreed Gordon. The others hoped so too.